Welcome to Thursday, April 24th, 2025, your Day Weather Podcast, brought to you by ConverseCountyTourism.com. Feel the energy of Converse County. Explore Douglas's Railroad Heritage, Ayers Natural Bridge, and the Jackalope Legend. Glen Rock, both scenic trails, dinosaur history, and small town charm. Plan your visit at ConverseCountyTourism.com. Well, we're going to be in a soupy mix of weather, depending on where you are. If you're west of the Continental Divide, especially in western Colorado, back on the western slope, you're going to be in a much drier, more stable air mass. But we have a cool, moist air mass extending from the central and northern Rockies, then along the front range areas of Colorado, Wyoming, and then down into the northeastern areas of New Mexico, where moist air is still getting pushed upslope. So that's going to produce scenes like you're seeing there, with some areas with that Pacific moisture, like you're seeing here in Teton Valley, Idaho yesterday, bringing Pacific moisture into the region. And then along and east of the divide, as you'll see here in a moment, lower clouds. Some of you are going to get rained on today, some of you won't. So this is how it's going to go. Some of you will be lucky, some of you will be not. And part of that is that upslope, while bringing clouds and higher humidity air into the region, can sometimes stymie thunderstorm development. One thing you need for thunderstorms, you need a little bit of heating. Depending on the situation, a little bit of heating or a lot. Today's a situation where we don't need a lot, but thick, low stratus clouds can block the sun, keep the air near the ground cool, and inhibit updraft formation. And we saw that yesterday. So the thunderstorms yesterday ended up mostly in Colorado and Kansas, then into south central Nebraska, because it was too cool in the deeper upslope in areas further to the north. That will play a role today as well, where thunderstorms are going to get stymied, but where they do develop, I'll tell you this, where the thunderstorms do develop, they are going to tap into some deep moisture, and they will be good rain producers. Now we're going to see an upper low drift across the region Sunday into early next week, bringing showers, thunderstorms, and around a cooler weather. Late Sunday into Monday, there's going to be some high country snow in the northern Rockies. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Also, in the last couple of weeks, we have seen unexpected sea surface temperature changes out in the equatorial Pacific, especially off the coast of South America. It's kind of thrown everybody for a little bit of a ringer. We'll talk about how that has impacted things and maybe why those changes have taken place. Jan Curtis put together a great time lapse that shows you what happens not only at the lower levels when upslope starts to come in, but this is a great representation of how the winds are different at different altitudes. Yesterday was a great example where the wind direction near the ground was exactly the opposite of the wind direction above it. So to give you perspective, this is east, this is west. What I want you to pay attention to as we run this video is the clouds up here are going to be moving this way in the mid and high levels, and the upslope low level clouds, as you can see here, are coming and going from the east to the west. So this is a great representation of how things go when you get an upslope pattern. Winds aloft are different, coming in from the southwest. The winds on the ground forming those low and mid-level clouds are coming in from the east-northeast. And you can see the effect those low upslope clouds can do on heating and making things a lot cooler. So that's great shot there. That's a great example of differing wind directions and conditions in the different levels. Here's a great shot out at Warren Air Force Base of those low upslope clouds taking on a little bit of a wave feature as well. Nice sundog in Laramie. On the other side of the Laramie Range, the air was going downslope. So those stratus clouds were getting evaporated, and we ended up with a bit of a sundog, as you can see there. Thunderstorms, they did pop up, and there were some big ones, especially in east central and southeastern Colorado into western Kansas late yesterday and last night. And you notice that there's some patches of blue there because it was able to warm up and the thunderstorms got going. It's that time of year now. We're going to get scenes like this across the region. Some great shots there from the Colorado Springs area. The surface boundary, that stationary boundary, showing up very well here. Here's that high. Think of the counterclockwise winds following these isobars packed up against the Continental Divide. So along this stationary boundary, it's much cooler up here, much warmer down here. And then we have the persistent winds working like this. And these winds are going to be with us today, tonight, tomorrow, and probably up into early Saturday. The upper level low here off the northwest coast of California is going to feed little disturbances in energy eastward. So there's a convergence of weather that's going to be taking on right here. And you can see this in the satellite imagery. Moisture getting thrown in from the upper level low off the west coast. Here's the thunderstorm activity that blew up late yesterday afternoon and evening and last night. Those areas getting rained on. And here the blue clouds are the upslope low stratus clouds banked up against the mountains. So there's a lot of moving parts in the weather today. And early this morning, this is where the shower and the thunderstorm activity was. In the cooler upslope conditions here, did not get any precipitation again because that basically put a lid on the atmosphere. Around the noon hour today, there's a little bit of a weak disturbance getting ejected off that low. And this is going to be what we call the trigger, the set-off showers and thunderstorms today. And there's the precipitable water by noon today. Plenty of it along and east of the divide with that trigger coming on through. That trigger will help lift the atmosphere. So you're going to see the shower and thunderstorm activity in the blue areas here. Notice the Black Hills will help initiate a few thunderstorms, but if you look carefully at patterns here, this is where the upslope and keeping the air cool will keep thunderstorms at a minimum. Now this boundary could be a little more north and east, maybe a little bit more west. It kind of all depends on how the day goes. Subtle little changes in how the day goes will move this axis of thunderstorms, either keep it right there or move it a little more east or a little more west. But this area right here is going to be very active with shower and thunderstorm activity, as well as out here on the plains, and that's where the Storm Prediction Center has the risk of strong to severe thunderstorms today, especially out here in the yellow. Then as we get into Friday, that little wave is through, so there's going to be a decrease in shower and thunderstorm activity. The upslope's still going to be there, but we're not going to have the trigger like we have today. So today for a lot of you is the best chance of getting rained on over the next 2 to 3 days. There still will be chances, but the more widespread activity is going to be today. So as we get into Friday, you can see the thunderstorm activity is much less. Not that there won't be rain showers, but the thunderstorm potential is a lot lower behind that wave tomorrow. Saturday, though, moisture starts to return, and you see this a lot in the spring and summer. After a wave goes through, you get return flow from the south that brings moisture back up the front range again. Then you get some daytime heating because the weekend will be warmer. We are going to have a nice warm up over the weekend, so that will destabilize things. So there's probably going to be more shower and thunderstorm activity here than even the model shows due to that return moisture flow, and Sunday could see that as well. Speaking of Sunday, the trough begins to move off the west coast, heads more eastward, and that's going to set off showers and thunderstorms Sunday in a north-south axis here, and then Montana, northern Wyoming, western Wyoming, Idaho, maybe in the northern Utah, you're starting to feel the impacts of that low coming off the west coast Sunday into Monday. And that will sweep through Monday, bringing cooler weather and a better chance of showers, thunderstorms, and a drop in temperature to start next week. Then we just have to figure out what these systems are going to do, kind of a question mark on where they're going to go as we get towards the middle of next week. Wanted to show you this because we talk about sea surface temperature anomalies in the Pacific. We talk about La Nina, El Nino all the time. And the sea surface temperature changes, and as they change over time, directly affect how the jet stream pattern is going to act and what storm systems will or will not do in the western part of North America. We've been talking about the persistent La Nina that needed to go away for us to get into a more wet pattern. As we went through February, March, and into early April, we saw this area right here get significantly warmer and La Nina went away. Technically, La Nina is done. This area right here, you can see is a mix of warmer water here up against cooler water here. So the coolness of the Pacific is still impacting things, and this recent resurgence right here of these colder waters, even though they're directly south here, they're not upstream, this does alter the wind patterns closer to the ground, closer to the sea surface, and changes the wind directions and distributes temperatures and water vapor differently as compared to when this is warmer. And that ends up affecting things up here and up here and eventually the jet stream. Why the rapid cooling? Look at what happened if we graph that area. Again, just off the coast of South America here that had a rapid warm up. Now it's having a rapid cool down. What's going on to cause it from early February to go across the zero line here of no anomaly, going to a big anomaly of 1.5 degrees Celsius, some dips here, and now it's gone back to where it was in early February. Well, there's a lot of things that we think can change sea surface temperatures, and all of the long-range modelings were predicting that off the coast of South America, it was going to get warmer and stay warmer. They're still predicting that despite this cool down that that's going to happen, but this has kind of set us back probably a couple of weeks on wanting these slower moving storm systems. The good news is that the depth of the cold water is very shallow. As this graph represents, going back to May of last year to where we are now, this shows you the depth of the colder water. And when you get and have these really cold depths here, the ability for the warmer water to be upwelled to the surface is much lower. So what we have likely seen is hopefully a temporary cooling there of the Pacific off the coast of South America. And if we were to take a look kind of where that is, this is a cross section of the water. So this is the depth. Here's your surface of the ocean right here along the equator. You can see the coolness right here. And this pocket of cold weather, this actually goes through a week ago. But this blue patch right here replaced the warm patch right up here. But if you look at the colors, you look at the orange, the depth of the colder water is shrinking here. We're getting warmer water coming up right here and right here. This is why the neutral status of the El Nino La Nina phase is likely going to happen. But the trade winds, the winds along the ocean surface, when it gets colder up there, especially right here this time of year, does affect things. So we needed to go back to these orange colors to get the more slower moving patterns in the month of May to come on through. We'll just have to see. But this has kind of thrown a wrench into things. We'll have a new update with the models a week from today about the sea surface temperature forecast going forward. One reason, and this is a bit controversial, but I'm throwing this out here. A lot of people ask me, well, what makes those sea surface temperatures change? Well, a lot of things are going on. There's the sun, the amount of clouds, there's the ocean currents that go and upwell against the continents. Colder water will get moved around based on how the currents interact with the continents. There's a lot moving, there's a lot of moving parts. But one thing that has been theorized is that the geothermal activity, basically like putting a tea kettle on a stove, could really affect things. And there's some folks out there who are studying that a lot of the sea surface changes that happen right here may be due to the seismic and volcanic activity on the ocean floor, basically magma going onto the ocean floor in the far depths of the ocean that could be basically heating the water. And when you go through these periods of rapid heating, you get a quick warm up, then the volcanic activity slows down, then things cool off very quickly. It's like turning off and on your stovetop. And so along these ridges of a lot of activity that happen not only here, but also on the western side of the Pacific right here, where you basically have these zones of earthquake zones, could be a big role player. Now, it's a bit controversial, but it makes sense. But again, it's just not one thing, it's multiple things. But if you look at the seismic activity that's happened, look at this rapid drop here that's happened here recently. If you were to measure the mid-spreading seismic zones, and this would be a mid-spreading seismic zone right here, and right here, and right here. So this is something to think about, something that is not predictable. Nothing that I know of helps you predict what the volcanic activity on the ocean floor is going to be coming and going. But it's something to keep track of right there. Have yourself a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow.